On NFL Network, I am your humble host, Rich Eisen, Steve Mariucci, Kurt Warner, Michael Irvin over there. I'm going to take the liberty, if you don't mind, of giving you my Sunday storyline before
you get a Sunday storyline?
I'm cutting the line, sir. I'm cutting.
Starting it out.
Okay, I'm doing the chat and cut, to use a Larry David phrase. Okay, the story for me is I am 1 week away from holding off these jackals to my left to win the NFL Game Day morning pick standing
right there on your heels,
a
Rich.
slim one-game lead over Kurt Warner, who has been stampeding his way towards the top. Almost pulled off the trifecta, that triple play of Jets, Giants, Bengals last week. Mooch is two back. Irv has fallen and cannot get up. And later on, you will see, for those who watch us every single day, we love you. Those who don't, I'm going to bring you up to speed. Later on, Michael Irvin will choose first every time to ensure the fact that he will not choose his picks based on what I choose, so he can try and catch up. These are what, for you children out there, are anti-cheating rules that we have put into place for NFL Game Day morning. That said, now, Steve Mariucci, the floor is yours for your Sunday storyline.
Rich, you can't change the rules as we go, okay? I'm just telling you that right now. All right, I got a Sunday storyline. Do you guys realize that the 49ers have lost 8 straight in Seattle? And they go in there tonight, and they're the favorites, and Kittle's coming. He didn't play the last time the Seattle beat him in overtime, but you know who else is coming? Oh, yeah, Beast Mode. Marshawn Lynch is showing up with his Skittles, and here we go. This place is going to be wild, and everything's on the line. The division title, the #1 seed. In fact, there are still 4 teams that are possible #1 seeds in the NFC. The Niners, the Seahawks, the Saints, the Packers. It couldn't get any better than this in Week 17 in the National Football League.
I saw him he got out of his car with all these Skittles, and he was shaking off the Skittles off.
His business manager did work before he got back to business.
He was ready, right?
Yeah, it was fun.
All right, well, here's the thing. When you're playing, there's kind of a hierarchy. Of course, you don't want anybody else to win the Super Bowl. But if somebody's going to win the Super Bowl, you don't want it to be anybody in your conference. And then to go even farther than that, you definitely don't want anybody in your division to win the Super Bowl. So I love what the NFL has done, that Week 17 is all about division games. And we've got 10 games today, 10 interdivision games that have bearing on seeding or teams getting into the playoffs. Teams that aren't even in the mix have a chance to affect somebody in their division and where they end up. There is no better scenario than this. And so I'm watching those 10 games and to see which of these teams, headlined by Eagles, Giants, right? Cowboys, Redskins have a chance to affect how the whole NFC playoff fixture sets up. So I'm looking forward to those 10 interdivision games, and I love what the NFL has done with that in Week 17.
Yeah, I do too, and I'll narrow the gate and bring it into those last 2 spots in each conference that are still dangling out there to be grabbed. One, that spot in the AFC and the spot in the NFC. And the storylines that go along with them now, which is just incredible. Are we talking about the job Mike Tomlin has done and Mika Fitzpatrick and that defense with the Steelers and what they're doing? Are we going to talk about these new triplets and what they're ready to do in Tennessee as they embark upon it? Are the Dallas Cowboys?
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Can they have one of those great journeys and great stories that saves a super story that ends up in a super place that saves a super dude's job? That's what it'll save a super dude's job. Or can Pennsylvania rise again? Right. And if he can lead this team to a Super Bowl, he can smash down all of Nick Foles' stuff and become the man. The storylines behind these games are incredible.
And don't you love, too, that all the games are played at the same time? So I know everybody out there we're not going to watch the scoreboard.
That's the way I want to
take care of all business. That is a lie.
By the way,
everybody watches the scoreboard.
Which is why I suggested we all make our choices as to who picks games at once.
Right.
Because I don't want him going first. Unless I go last.
Yes.
Do you understand? So the reality
man,
is everywhere is all I'm saying. Speaking of, we're starting in Dallas, where we're talking about Dak's shoulder and his contract and the coach's contract and Jason Witten's coaching future. That's the week that was. Take it away, Jane Slater.
Rich, it has been an exhausting week of storylines, but here's the playoff scenario today. They've got to beat the Redskins, and then, of course, the Eagles have to lose to the Giants. But they're going to have to do this with a throwing shoulder that is still giving Dak Prescott all sorts of fits. He didn't throw it all this week. And then I'm now being told left tackle Tyron Smith doesn't look like he's going to be able to play today. They'll go through some drills with him, but right now it is not looking good. Now to Kim Jones for more on that game, Giants and Eagles.
Jane, in what is almost certainly Eli Manning's last game in his career as a New York Giant, the headline on the field is simple. The Eagles win, and they're in as NFC East champions. Now let's go to Baltimore and say hello to Randy Moss.
Where the storyline is almost as simple. Should the Steelers beat the Ravens and the Titans lose to the Texans? The Steelers are in the playoffs, and their job is a lot easier given that the Ravens have wrapped up the #1 seed and will be resting some starters, including, very importantly, Lamar Jackson. Also, for what it's worth, rain is expected here this afternoon. Now to Houston and Tiffany Black.
Randy, Titans left tackle Taylor Lewan said, "This is our playoffs." And for the third straight year, the Titans find themselves in the same scenario in their season finale. Win and you're in. Now, the Colts kept them out of the playoffs last year, and linebacker Rashaan Evans said they have to remember that feeling and use it to their advantage. Now to Mike Giardi in Foxborough.
Thank you, Tiffany. Patriots have already clinched the AFC East title, but with a win today or a Kansas City loss, they get that important first-round bye. They've never been to a Super Bowl without one. They have 8 players on the injury report listed as questionable, including Sony Michel, the running back who's run as well as he has all year, a late ad last night with an illness. Let's send it to Kansas City now and James Palmer.
Well, thanks, Mike. Patrick Mahomes said this week it's impossible to avoid seeing what's going on between the Patriots and the Dolphins in New England. But the Chiefs were never going to rest any of their players, not just because seeding is at stake, but also because they believe they're playing their best football of the season right now. They do not want to let their foot off the gas. Now let's go to Stacey Dales in Detroit.
James, the Green Bay Packers find themselves in #1 seed territory. They win here today. The Niners lose tonight, and they are top dog. If not, they are still looking for that bye with the 2 seed. In the worst-case scenario, they're the #3 seed. So the message from their head coach, Matt LaFleur, this is a playoff game. We're going to bring everything we have to beat a team that always plays well against us. And right now, we're going to go to Ian Rappaport. Rap Sheet, what do you got for us?
Stacey, few bigger stories in the NFL right now than the improbable return of Marshawn Lynch, Beast Mode, back with Seattle. He's expected to play tonight. Going to get probably 10 to 15 carries from what I'm told. He actually looked really good in practice and reminded those who knew him well how good he is, how instinctual he is at things like blitz pickup, and how much they can rely on them. Expect the Seahawks to give him the ball in key situations, short yardage situations, and certainly rely on him. Meanwhile, the Minnesota Vikings, who, by the way, had their walkthrough canceled due to ice in Minnesota yesterday, are expected to rest many of their key players, including Kirk Cousins, Stephon Diggs, on and on. It is essentially going to be a preseason game, Rich, because there's nothing to play for.
Wow. So these are some bold-faced names that are out to.
That's crazy.
I guess we're calling them fantasy factors. If you're playing in a Week 17 fantasy league, we tip our cap to you because that means you're on NFL Network. I'm your humble host, Rich Eisen, Steve Mariucci, Kurt Warner, Michael Irvin over there. I'm going to take the liberty, if you don't mind, of giving you my Sunday storyline before
Wait a minute, you get a Sunday storyline?
I'm cutting the line, sir. I'm cutting.
Starting it out.
Okay, I'm doing the chat and cut, to use a Larry David phrase. Okay. The story for me is I am 1 week away from holding off these jackals to my left to win the NFL Game Day morning pick standing
right there on your heels,
a
Rich.
slim 1-game lead over Kurt Warner, who has been stampeding his way towards the top. Almost pulled off the trifecta, that triple play of Jets, Giants, Bengals last week. Mooch is 2 back. Irv has fallen and cannot get up. And later on, you will see. For those who watch us every single day, we love you. Those who don't, I'm going to bring you up to speed. Later on, Michael Irvin will choose first every time to ensure the fact that he will not choose his picks based on what I choose, so he can try and catch up. These are what, for you children out there, are anti-cheating rules that we have put into place for NFL Game Day morning. That said, now, Steve Mariucci, the floor is yours for your Sunday
mine. And
storyline.
Rich, you
Yes.
can't change the rules as we go, okay? I'm just telling you that right now. All right, I got a Sunday storyline. Do you guys realize that the 49ers have lost 8 straight in Seattle? And they go in there tonight, and they're the favorites, and Kittle's coming. He didn't play the last time the Seattle beat him in overtime, but you know who else is coming? Oh, yeah, beast mode. Marshawn Lynch is showing up with his Skittles, and here we go. This place is going to be wild, and everything's on the line. The division title, the #1 seed. In fact, there are still 4 teams that are possible #1 seeds.